Wherever you are, welcome to Comics and Revelings with Aru. So number 5 and final, right? Lack of distribution. I didn't realize that this would take so long because I was hoping that, oh, for those who are joining us, we lost Hawk early on because the US is having some issues with like freaking internet, right? So he was having really bad. He tried everything, 3 different devices and so on, didn't work. The sound was really bad. So, we went through that all at the start and didn't work. So we'll get him to, maybe I'll get him to go through this and watch this and then give him his overall version next week. And then we can just get him to talk like I'm doing now. And I know I just realized it's been a pretty long one already. It's been 2 hours, but we're on the last hog here. So this is the last one. Lack of distribution options. Options should be options, right? I don't know why she thinks that's the bad thing, but maybe I do know why. And the answer just came into my head. Shops are closing. Why is shops closing? Because all the other stuff before, right? Because when I was looking at this yesterday, when I was putting this together, because I only decided to do this yesterday when I saw, I think it was John De La Rose. I should give John credit. I saw him bring it up, and I thought, okay, I'll talk about it. I didn't want to listen to what he has to say. I will go and listen to it later, but because I wanted to give my own unadulterated, opinion on it without any influence by anybody else's. But this is something I've been, like, all this points here is something I've experienced myself as a comic shop owner, as an artist, as a writer, as a publisher, right? Self-publisher, and as working with with Horizons of Comics. That it is not the indie comics that have destroyed the distribution. Which is by distribution, I hope if I'm thinking, I think she means the stores, right? Because you can have Walmart, you can have Barnes and Noble in New Zealand. I think it's like Paper Plus or something like that. Or what's the other one? Is it the blue one? The red one, Paper Plus. I can't remember. All right. So, but at the end of the day, the comic store is probably the first. It used to be the newsagent, right? Like the dairies or bookstores, like your family stores. Like my first experience for myself as a child, 8, 9 years old, it was a comic book. I think was my friend across the street, who I always, I talk about Regan, right? Who got me introduced, like actual, that comics was sold, right? Like he got me interested in Judge Dredd, right? And of course, if you want to see more of that, you can check out my friend on Instagram and on Facebook, Art of Evans, one word. That's his artwork. It's one of the best presents I've gotten. That's an piece of art from a friend. Now, that's what I was trying to say. So yeah, 2000 AD, right? Now I don't remember buying it until like I was about maybe 15, no, maybe 16, 17. Yeah, but I remember seeing it and my friends. No, yeah, sorry, they owned a pet shop. His parents, but next to that was a bookshop, gift shop, bookshop, and so it was right there. So the comics were right in the front, right? Like the counters there, the comics were right there, and I could see all the magazines there. Next to Cleo, by the way, there's an issue there. So there must have been one, maybe it was 15. They did a STD episode, issue, and I bought it, and it was like the grossest thing I ever saw. I was like, never. Well, like, you know, I will always use protection. Anyway, like, but yeah, right there next to the comic books, it was a sealed one, by the way. So, you know, but I was old enough to get it. But like, so there's all, you know, there's 2008 Judge Dredd, you know, all the other comics. But, and the other thing was, I think I started buying Valiant, and I hadn't thought about that until recently, from a, what could have been a secondhand shop. And they had like a spinner rack. This is like 2000, no, 2000, 1986, 7 maybe. Yeah, it was in a different town to where we were. It was in Kaikoi, and I was to bus there, go do my chef's course, go you know, go buy some stuff, go look at some music, listen to some music, look at some books, buy a comic, and come home. And I think I must have bought like Valiant before I bought Batman or you know, DC or Marvel because of that. Um, but it never really stuck with me, so I don't really understand. You know, I don't know whatever happened to those comics either, because I never really thought much. I don't know. At that age, I wasn't really. I was concentrating more on comics. I mean, on music. And then later, when I moved away, I was getting, you know, needed escapism because I was on my own most of the time. So I got into comics hard out. But anyway, so when you have so many, and just before I was talking about Mike Miller, right, about concern for all the shops closing. Last week we talked about it. It's because of when you flood the market with variants and cheap stories, and by cheap I mean like just whimsy, right? Stuff that the characters shouldn't be involved in. Like, why do we want to see friggin' you know, Wolverine, Jean Grey, and Cyclops on the moon having a threesome? Why do we want to see it? None of us want to see that. We don't want to say, hey, go read that comic book, young one. Do you like, you know, do you like, you know, do you like Cyclops from that movie X-Men? Yeah. Okay, go read that. That should make you feel icky. And a lot of times it does. And if you, you know, because you can't say, go read that book. Now, when we're talking, you know, when we're putting up like these mainstream guys like Marvel and DC, are changing characters like Bobby, who always is a teenager, to in sexual situations. They're saying with like friggin' Damien. Is it Damien that they mess with? No, it's the other Robin, right? Tim Drake or something like that. I can't remember which one's which now. But you know, if that's going to be the kid's first book, right? He, she, it doesn't matter. Girl, boy, you don't want to be that introduction to that. That's why comics like Disney were a safe place for parents to say, like, hey, you know, all the horror stuff's gone out of it, all the blood and gore's come out of it. Superhero comics is safe. But you've taken the safety away from it. So even someone like me at 50 years old goes, that's a bit icky, right? Because that is not where you should be, you know, playing out your fantasies, right? As a creator. Because go write your creator-owned books and write all your fantasies there, right? That's what independent comics do. We create our own little things, the worlds we wanted to build. I created Incredi-Girl for my niece, and I want it to be like a real clean, safe, really cool superhero book. Cool, that's there. Now I can go create some other thing, you know, like Red Dot, who's like a revenge fantasy type soldier, you know, who helps people, right? Kind of like the Punisher, but not much at all, you know. Because Punisher's on his own, right? I wanted to give this guy a team, right? Because he's from New Zealand, right? So something like that. But it's a mature book, kind of like maybe a teen plus, right? But I can tell stories that are more, you know, socially conscious through that one. Or I could just tell a freaking crazy old book about heaven and hell and demons and angels, and no holds barred, right? And I can do that. I don't have no safety net. If it fails, it fails. However, if you do that with Marvel and DC, you can carry on writing for the next 20 years and you'll be fine. Because upset when people realize that what you're writing is just keeps getting worse and worse. And you see that right now. That when mainstream looks at indie, they look at how how bad it is or what something. They think, oh, it's not up to quality. It's because they're not looking hard enough. Maybe they just don't want to look either, right? They don't want to see what's over there, because hey, navel gazing, it's become my favorite word, right? So when you're saying, I guess, basically they just got down a little bubble. They think the world's fine. I remember Kelly Sudaconic, comics is fine. If you don't like my politics, don't read my comics. Where are we now, Sally? Is it Sally or Kelly? Kelly, where are we now? We are with Mark Miller saying, look at all the shops closing. We're in a dire state. 5 points from why it's in a dire state from Gail Simone, right? Two legends, right? So sure, you've got the big whole studios keeping your IPs going because they're just IP now. Wolverine's just an IP. He's just a name to keep it out there on the shelf so that people, when they go into comic shop, oh, it's Wolverine. Yay, I can pick up a Wolverine book. All that's doing is taking up shelf space, right? Guess how much I paid for this book? The same price that's on here in New Zealand, right? $3.99. I think I paid about maybe $6, which is like a third, maybe not a third, maybe I might have paid about $4 for it, right? So maybe a third of what's its value is. So it would have been like about $1 US, maybe, $1.50. Why? Because nobody buying it. I bought it because it was Larry Hama and somebody wanted the Larry Hama book, and I thought, oh well, they decided not to want it, so I thought, okay, I'll keep it for myself. I have a Wolverine book. There was no reason for me to buy it apart from that, and I wasn't going to pay more than $4 for it, because it's not, doesn't interest me anymore. I used to be a huge fan of, of Wolverine. I've got like freaking, probably about 10 different figures of them out there, right? There's a huge Wolverine, like, let me see if I can show you. Oh, it's on there. Like you can see right at the top there, you can see Wolverine up there, the Funko toy. And that's all the Wolverine, the whole bunch of Wolverine figures up there. Anyway, so, when you turn off someone like me from an actual character that I've like basically read since I was 18 years old, right? That is saying that something is wrong with the business. That someone as loyal as me to one specific character, right? And recently to Batman since 2018, 2019, because of Tom Taylor. No, not Tom Taylor, what's his name? Tom King, right? That if you can make the character so bad and so dumb and so stupid that I will turn away from after being loyal to it for so long, t-shirts, hats, toys, comics, posters, that says it's not me that something's wrong, because I know there's a lot of other people. The business is wrong. The books, the writers, the creators are wrong on it. Because at the end of the day, we will go see the movie, but we will not buy the comic. Why is that? Is the movie wrong? Right? We're looking so forward to seeing Deadpool 3, right? Is it 3 or 4? Can't remember what we were up to, because I know there was a Christmas one, right? Not a Christmas one. There was like a PG version. But anyway, so, so by turning away all the people with the disposable income, as we used to like to say in comics in the day, people who can afford to buy them to give away, right? to buy one for themselves, one to the son or to the nephew, or so on, or introduce them to other people. You don't get that now, right? Because you got to look. What if this is a iffy comic? What if there's something icky going on there? What if I give them the wrong comic, right? And you know, old brother or sister or somebody goes that you shouldn't be giving these comics. Did you know what was inside it? That's where we are right now. Do we know what's inside the comics? Right. So rather than going, hey, try this book out, we go, you know what? No. Go back to the 80s and get that out. Okay, let's go read if you want a comic about birds of prey and something, go back to these ones by Chuck Dixon. You'll be fine. Not to the current ones, because we don't know what the hell's going on in there. You can't be safe with those. Same with Disney, right? So when you start producing stuff that isn't edible, right, that isn't safe, that doesn't feel safe, which is what Disney's been doing for quite a while now, right? Parents just go, you know what, we're not going to get that. So the streaming numbers will go down. People turn off the subscription. I know that happened with Netflix with Cuties, right? And and with this price hike, it will be the same thing. People go, you know what? While we're in the middle of a freaking recession with inflation, I don't want to pay the extra couple bucks a month on Netflix. Why do I need Netflix and Disney? Right? It's the same thing now. That's what I'm saying. Like, why do you want to pay money for something that's costing you way more than it should be? Comics should be around about $2.99. Anything special should be about, depending what it is, right? Quality of paper and all that. $3.99, at least $2.99, $3.99. Great. That's fine. Regular 22-page comic book, right? However, with indies, it costs a bit more because the printing is less, right? And so the rates are higher to get them done, right? So the amount of printing is less, and so on. So there's all that, and there's if that's why I say, learn the business if you're a creator out here. If you won't learn, you won't survive, because you have to know what's going on, both in the printing scene as well as the comic scene, and what is happening around you. I've been, because I've been, comics have been such a huge part of my life. I've been talking to artists and interviewing them since like 2009. I used to make little videos with local creators and stuff, saying, "Hey, what's to promote them." So I've been doing that for so long, over 20 years now. I guess, is it 20? No, 15. I don't know, but well, over a decade anyway. But because you can only learn what you want to learn, right? You can only take in what you want to take in. So I said, you got to learn the business. You got to learn as much as you can about the printing costs, about distribution, about and if it gets too overwhelming, you can go to people like Rising Sun, do the creative book, create own thing for distribution and all that, But also you can go to other places as well, because but you got to get out there and support the indies. If you guys want, better stuff out there, more of it, you have to get out there and support the indies, because the mainstream isn't going to give you what you want anymore, because all you're going to get is like barren covers with nothing in the middle. It's going to have a whole, it's like eating a bread with just butter on it, but no meat, right? No vegetables, no, it's just bread and butter. And that doesn't feel or taste good, right? So, try indie comics. You don't have to buy from Rising Sun. There's enough out there, but why not, right? Why not give Rising Sun Comics a go? Why not, when we get issue 2 out, you can try it number 1, right? I'm sure we'll probably release number 1. You can go check that out, and see if, you can come back and grab number 2 later. But you at least got to try, right? The sad part of this is that with distribution and the stores going, it's going to harm indie comics as well. Excuse me. So how is this going to harm indie comics with no stores, right? With stores closing. When you go through the Kickstarter period, get your comics out, if you're with a publisher, they're able to distribute your books if they have deals in place or distribution, set up with comic stores, right? And so you can do small runs and, go around 5 to 10 stores. So you can, be a creator in New Zealand and go, hey, Rising Sun, can you get our book in a couple of months once we've done, once we've got to all our, to all our Kickstarters and everybody, and like when we got some money, we can print a few more out, and can you see if we can get them in the shops? And now we got new readers looking through them, right? Now, if you don't have that, the only place they will know is on the internet, online. But that's not in their face. People have to go look for it, right? So it's on to us now to promote it and stuff. And that's why I do what I do, by getting other people on here, and I interview them and talk to them about it and have discussion about their comics, because that's where I live. I live on the internet, right? I don't live in America. I don't live in England. I live in New Zealand, but there's no comic shops here. So what I do is I get people to talk about their books, and I try to get as much promotion for them as possible through what I do and what we do here. And but that's cutting off a whole customer base, reader base, fan base, because they never get to see it. Because most of these comics, right, to be honest, will be read once, right? And I'm talking about indie comics as well. Will be read once, put on board, and put away. Right? That's it. Now, however, every time one of those goes to the thing and we end up selling, putting in a comic shop, 4 or 5 people will walk past it, and 1 or 2 of them will buy it. Now they'll read it, and now they'll talk about it. If they like it, they'll talk about it. If they have a podcast, or if they have friends, whatever, the social media, that'll allow us to get out to them. But not many people pay attention to podcasts that are specifically to it, indie book. But there is ways of actually working with people and say, hey man, send us a photo of you with the book. Tell us, give us a review. What do you think? You kind of like, that's what I mean about business. You got to be smart about how you do this, because if you're just out here to do one and done, that's fine. That's cool. But if you want longevity as a creator, to be able to have money to put out more, that in a few years after doing the Kickstarter thing, you no longer have to rely on Kickstarter. Now you've got a deal in place with stores and stuff. Now you don't have to do the grind, and now you've got somebody already set up there to do that. But that doesn't mean you don't do Kickstarter. You can do it if you want, because that's another way of getting your word out there about your book. And not only that, you actually get people having the book in their hand instead of just getting the word out. That's why we got to, if you're an indie creator, you got to work hand in hand to keep those stores alive, man. Because once those stores are gone, they're not coming back. And then all you're gonna have to freaking bend over backwards to get into the Walmart and all their Barnes and Nobles in America, right? Or wherever, whatever big store you guys have elsewhere in the world that has comics in it, and these guys aren't going to want 10 comics. They'll probably want 100. And if they got a network, franchise, that's like 1,000, right? So do you have the money to print 1,000 books at any given moment? No. Well, then you're going to end up losing that contract. So, but the stores will take 3 or 4 books, right? And if you work with them, and I think those stores need to work with indie creators as well. And you know, soon, hopefully, you know, like Hawk said last week, right? A lot of this closing down of stores, a third of it is the blame has to go on the stores themselves, because they don't give indie creatives a go, indie comic creators a go. They won't even let the books, you know, be there, right? Let alone, you know, sell, have the space, because all those spaces are taken up by this sort of stuff, right? Comics that nobody reads, or if they read, they just buy it to just put, you know, fill a hole, right? So, you know, I think if you're out here as an indie creator, you know, have a look at what Gail says and work, you know, go along with that, work with what she's saying, take those 5 points I put out here, you know, and really look at that, look at what I've said about it. And the solution is in the questions themselves, right? And that's how I've tried to answer them. Hopefully it's helped. But if you, every independent creator needs to learn business. You need to learn business. Do a freaking 3-month course or something. Do an online course or something, but learn business. There's enough YouTube videos out there. I'm sure they, you know, that you can learn the business, right? Because if you don't, you'll get ripped off. You'll have good intentions, had mine, but even people will go back on their word, right? So you got to make sure whatever you're doing that you know, you've made up your mind to be in it for the long haul. If you want to be in indie comics for the long haul, or in comics in general for the long haul, get to know the business, you know, because otherwise you won't survive. And, you know, and stores, man, you got to give indie comics a chance, right? Sure, it takes about, you know, 4 months to get a friggin' book out, but at least, you know, put it out there that are, you know, I mean, after all, the guys are, you know, the indie creators are paying for the, you know, getting the books themselves done up. You got nothing to lose, right? Anyway, I'm going to finish off there.